Katherine binti Anwar. My ID number is 240710 and 204.
Hi, my name is Nur Amira binti Zarwa Anwar. My ID is BGJ2407-10176.
Hi, my name is Nur Baitina binti Muhammad Berkuri. My ID number is BGJ2407-10274.
Hi, my name is Nurlana Ayuni binti Nur Azlan. My ID number is 240710211.
Hi, my name is Safika binti Helmi Azro. My ID is 240710153.
We are going to present The Fly.
We are going to present The Fly.
We are going to present The Fly.
Today we are going to be presenting about The Fly.
Hello everyone, this is a presentation about short story analysis for the short story titled The Fly by Katherine Mansfield. This presentation is for the subject HSL 1093 and this is presented by Group 3, Section 4.06. In this video, you will come with us to go in deeper into the short story's information, plot and free text triangle, settings, characters and characteristics, conflicts, point of view, theme, and lastly, literary devices used in this short story. The Fly is a short story written by Katherine Mansfield in 1922. The story is set in the boss's office where his old friend Mr. Woodfield will come to visit. Their conversation about comfort and whiskey suddenly turns serious when Mr. Woodfield mentioned visiting the graves in Belgium, including graves of the old boss's son who died in the war 6 years earlier. The boss tries to grieve, but he realizes he can no longer cry as he once did, showing how time has numbered his emotions. Distracted, he tortures a fly that flew into his inkpot until it dies. This symbolizes the helplessness of life and inevitability of death. The story highlights the theme of grief, the futility of life, and the struggles to cope with loss. That is all from me. We will be moving on to my next team member.
So, the story The Fly by Katherine Mansfield is about the boss, a man who lost his only son in the war. One day, his old friend Mr. Woodfield comes to visit him and tell him that his daughter went to Belgium and saw the grave of both Woodfield's sons and the boss's sons. This reminds the boss of his loss, but he finds he can't cry like he used to anymore. While thinking about it, he noticed a fly struggling in his inkpot. He dropped ink on it several times, watching it fight to survive, but eventually the fly dies. This part is really important because it shows how the boss feels about his own grief. Just like the fly, he struggles with his pain but can control it, and in the end, he feels emptiness and helplessness. So, in simple words, this story shows the boss's hidden sorrow, his struggle with loss, and how time hasn't really healed him. As you can see here, this is the free-type triangle. The story starts flat, calm, and steady in the exposition. Then, in the rising action, the tension or problem begins to increase until it reaches the climax, which is the most exciting or intense part. After that, in the falling action, the tension decreases and finally in the resolution, the story ends flat again, calm and settled. So the triangle shows the story rising and falling like a hill, from calm to peak tension and back to calm. Exposition in the beginning of the story, where the writer introduced the main character, the setting, and sometimes give hint about the main conflict. It helped the readers understand the situation, before the story developed. In The Fly, the exposition shows us the boss and old Mr. Woodyfield meeting in the boss office. Woodyfield is frail and retired, while the boss is still strong and proud of his office. We also notice a photograph of the boss' son in uniform on his desk. This small detail gives a subtle hint about the boss' personal gifts and loss, which become important later in the story. The exposition set the stage for the story by letting us know the characters' personalities and their emotional background. The rising action is where the story's tension and conflict start to build in. In The Fly, this happened when Mr. Woodyfield recalled that his daughter visited the war cemeteries in Belgium and saw the boss' son's grave. This sudden reminder unsettled the boss, who has avoided confronting his grief for many years. After Woodyfield leaves, the boss prepares himself to cry as he once did after his son's death. However, to his shock, no tears come, and he feels strangely numb and confused. This part of the story increased the emotional tension and shows how the boss struggles internally with unresolved sorrow. The climax is the most intense and dramatic part of the story, where the conflict reaches its highest point. In The Fly, this occurs when the boss notices a fly struggling in his ink pot. He rescues it, but then repeatedly drops ink on it, testing its resilience. The fly continues to fight and struggle, showing determination, but eventually, after too many drops, it dies. These scenes represent the boss' inner pain and frustration, and it is the peak of emotional tension in the story. The falling action is where the story begins to calm down after the climax, and the tension slowly decreases. In The Fly, this happens after the fly dies. The boss is struck by an unexpected feeling of wretchedness and fear. He realizes the cruelty of his action toward the fly, but at the same time, he recognizes the futility of resting face. This part of the story shows the boss reflecting on life loss and the harsh realities of human struggle as the emotional intensity begins to subside. The last one is the denouement or resolution. This is the final part of the story where everything comes to an end and the tension are fully released. In The Fly, this occurs when the boss tries to calm what he had been thinking about before his dead son, but he cannot remember. The story ends with his inability to feel or process his grief. His emotions are numb, much like the crushed fly. This final part leaves the reader with a sense of emptiness and highlights the boss' deep, unresolved sorrow, showing that same emotional wound never fully healed.
So my focus will be on the settings, which includes time, place, atmosphere, and mood. And I will be also explaining about characters and characteristics in the story. The story is about 6 years after World War I, which is in the 1920s. And this is important because both Mr. Woodyfield and the boss lost their son in the war. The passing of the time shows how grief has and has not changed for them. Next, we are moving on to place, which the main setting is the boss's office in the city. So it is comfortable and filled with luxuries such as red carpet, electric heating, and also new furnitures, which resembles his wealth. Another implied setting is the war cemeteries in Belgium, and that were mentioned by Mr. Woodyfield. And this reminds us of great loss caused by the war. Moving on, we have atmosphere. At first, the atmosphere was cheerful and cozy with two men drinking whiskey and sharing stories. But as soon as Woodyfield mentions about the war graves, it suddenly becomes heavy and somber. Lastly, we have mood. The mood changes throughout the whole story. In the beginning, it was fun and casual, while it was also almost humorous. But in the middle, it got sad and reflective as the boss remembers his son. But at the end, it was tragic because of how the flight died and the boss is unable to cry. Next, I will be explaining about characters and characteristics. Firstly, we have the boss, which is the protagonist of the story, and everything revolves around him. Grief, his memories of his son, and even his cruel experiment with the fly. He is also a round character because he has complex qualities. For example, he is a powerful businessman but also broken inside as a grieving father. Next is Mr. Woodyfield. Mr. Woodyfield is a supporting character. He does not drive the story, but he does remind the boss about his son's grave, and that triggers the boss's emotion. He is also a flat character, meaning he is simple and does not change. He remains the same. Lastly, we have the fly, which is an antagonist. Why it is an antagonist is because it resists the boss control by continuing to fight for survival. However, it is a flat character because it has no inner development, and also a static character because it does not change.
Today, I will be explaining about the internal conflict on the fly. Internal conflict is a struggle that happens inside a character's mind or heart. It is usually about feelings, emotions, or thoughts that the character cannot easily control. In The Fly, the boss faces a strong internal conflict because of the death of his only son. Deep inside, he feels great sadness, grief, and trauma, but he cannot express his emotions openly. He wants to cry and release his feelings, yet he finds it very difficult to do so. This conflict becomes clear when Old Woodfield suddenly mentioned the boy's grave. The text says, "It had been a terrible shock to him when Old Woodfield sprang that remark upon him about the boy's grave. It was exactly as thought. The earth had opened, and he had seen the lying there with Woodfield's girl staring down at him." This moment shows that the boss is deeply affected, and the memory of his son still hurts him very much. However, instead of crying, he forces himself to stay strong and hide his true emotions. This proves that the boss' internal conflict is the struggle between his desire to mourn and his inability to express grief. It happens silently inside him, making him look strong on the outside but broken on the inside. His pain shows that even powerful people cannot escape the feelings of loss and sadness. And now I will be explaining external conflict. In this story, it is character versus nature. External conflict happens when a character faces challenges or struggles with outside forces such as other people, society, or even nature. In The Fly, the external conflict can be seen through the fly's struggle against nature. After falling into the ink pot, the small fly must fight against natural obstacles like its tiny body, the heavy ink, and the slippery surface. It tries very hard to clean itself and survive, but the situation is too difficult. The conflict becomes worse when the boss makes it harder for the fly by dropping more ink on it. The text says, "But just then the boss had an idea. He plunged his pen back into the ink, leaned his thick wrist on the blotting paper, and as the fly tried its wing down came a great heavy blot. Even though the fly keeps fighting, its energy slowly disappears. Finally, the last blot fell on the soaked blotting paper, and the dragonfly lay in it and did not. This shows that despite its strong efforts to survive, the fly cannot win the battle against the natural forces and eventually dies. This conflict represents the struggle of living things against nature, where no matter how hard they fight, they can still be defeated by forces bigger and stronger than themselves. The fly's death also reflects the reality of human life, that sometimes effort and courage are not enough to escape fate. So, the point of view in this story is third-person limited omniscient. Third-person limited omniscient is when the narrator tells the story using pronouns like he, she, or they. The narrator is not a character in the story, but can enter the mind of main character only. This is different from third-person omniscient, where The narrator knows the thoughts and feelings of all characters. In The Fly, the story is written in third-person limited omniscient, and it focuses on the boss. The narrator used the word he to refer to the boss. For example, in the text, he's a plucky little devil, thought the boss, and he felt a real admiration for the fly's courage. Here, the word he points to the boss, and the narrator lets us see what the boss is secretly thinking and feeling. We only know that the boss' inner world, like his grief about his son and his reaction to the fly, but we cannot see the thoughts of Mr. Woodfield or the fly. This shows that the story is told in third-person limited omniscient with the boss as the center.
First, the strongest theme in the story is grief and loss. The boss lost his only sons during the war, even 6 years have already passed. But he still cannot move on from that day. He tries to cry and release his emotions, but he cannot. His emotional silence is when Mansfield showing us that losing someone that we love can leave a wound that never truly heals. The second one is the story explores the cruelty of life, symbolized through the fly. The fly struggles again and again to escape after being dropped to ink. Same just like people who fighting through their life. At the first, the fly succeed, but in the end, when too many struggles, at the end the fly dies. We can see here that no matter strong we are, no matter determined we are, when it comes to death and suffering, we cannot avoid it. And also we can see that the boss that killing the fly, how life can be so harsh. The last one is this story can show loneliness. At the first we can see that the boss is successful man, a rich man, but deep inside, who knows, right? Deep inside, he feels so empty and loneliness after the death of his son. Basically, no one can replace his son, which is to continue his legacy. Even though he has many workers, many friends, but no one can replace his son. Mansfield teach us that money, richness, we cannot replace the money with losing someone that we love. In conclusion, Katherine Mansfield presents 3 powerful themes, which is grief that never fades, the cruelty of life that ends with death, and also the loneliness that comes with loss. Together, these themes reflects reality in human life. So the next one is literary devices. We have irony, personification, and imagery. Basically, irony is something that we expect something happen, but turns out it can be something else happens. It can also be when there is a difference between someone says, someone thinks, and someone feels compared to their actions or reality. In The Fly, irony is shown through the boss' grief. Basically, the boss feels like when his son dies, the pain is forever, that would never be moved on. But suddenly, after 6 years later, he tries to remember again about his son, but he tries to cry. He even cannot cry. He even cannot shed a single tear from his eyes. This is so ironic because he feels that he still cannot move on with the past 6 years. We can see that admiration and cruelty highlights the ironic and complex nature of human emotions. The next one is personification. Personification is non-human, like objects or animals, are given human-like qualities. So readers can connect to them on a deeper level. In this story, fly is described as a human term. Its legs are said to be waving, and it is cleaning its face like a cat. This story describes the fly as a human that makes readers more sympathy and feel so sorry about the fly. This personification, which is the fly, shows to us as a human that how struggle we are, how hard we are in life. We have to go through this life even the thing is uncertain. This is gonna be the last literary devices for this story, which is imagery. Imagery is when the writer use a descriptive language. Mansfield used vivid visual imagery when she describes the fly. It's cleaning its wings, drop ink or falling, the fly's tiny efforts to survive. This level of details makes the reader see the whole scene that the readers feels is happen in front of them. More importantly, the imagery helps to connect with small struggles of the fly and with larger human suffering.
That is all from us. Thank you so much for watching our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. Bye.